Can the Chicago Bulls win an NBA championship within the next 5 seasons? Let's get into this.
Dosage. Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetics. Okay.
Quickly before we get the video started, if you guys enjoy this video and want to see more NBA content just like this one, hit that subscribe button and that post notification bell. Anyways, back to the video. The Chicago Bulls have been one of the bottom feeders of the league for some time now. Really ever since D Rose left the organization and got traded to the New York Knicks, the Bulls have never really been even in contention to make a playoff spot. And basically for a decent amount of time, the Chicago Bulls have been in a rebuild. But of course the most important part of a rebuild is actually to draft the right players at the right positions. And that's something that the Bulls definitely struggled with. When you look at the Bulls draft picks over the past few seasons, I wouldn't necessarily say that the Bulls drafted a complete bust each and every season, but when you look at some of the draft picks they had, they were good players, but they weren't great players. When you look at the 2016 NBA draft, when they drafted Denzel Valentine with the number 14 overall selection, obviously he's an okay player, he's just a three-point shooter, catch and shoot guy, but for that number 14 overall selection in that draft, it's not like just getting a catch and shoot three-point shooter is something terrible. He's just a solid player, and for that spot that he was drafted in, basically it matched up. But then skipping over a few drafts, looking at the 2018 NBA draft, when they drafted Wendell Carter with the number 7 overall pick, once again, Wendell Carter is a decent player. I think he's worth that number 7th overall selection. He's a fantastic rebounder, really good mid-range shooter, has a great touch around the post, even extended his range all the way out to that 3-point range. He's a decent defender as well. But the thing about Wendell Carter, just like a lot of other Bulls draft picks, is he isn't necessarily a bust for that number 7 overall selection. Maybe he could have gone a few picks later, but basically he's not a bust for that pick. But the thing is, he's also not a steal at that selection. He's not a guy that's going to be fantastic for you going forward. And it's not a guy that we're going to be looking back and saying, how did he fall all the way to that 7th spot? He's just a decent player for that position, and those players are definitely valuable within your organization. But when you're rebuilding, you really have to find a star player to take your organization to the next level, and that's something that the Bulls have really been lacking for a while. But then when you look at the 2019 NBA draft, I think that was a little bit of a switch. Drafting Kobe White with the number 7 overall selection, I think that was definitely a very good pick for these guys. Although he's not starting because they have so much talent currently, I think Kobe White going forward is going to be a really good player. He's a fantastic scorer. He's learning how to pass the ball a little bit. He's not necessarily great at that, but honestly going forward, he could be one of those combo guards where he plays next to another point guard and you'd be very effective like that. But the scoring ability that he possesses is just so good and so valuable going forward. So with that number 7 overall selection getting Kobe White, I think that was a really good pick for the Bulls. But then this previous season in the 2020 NBA draft, when the Bulls drafted Patrick Williams with the number 4 overall selection, I know it's still very early on in his career, but at this point it seems like he's gonna kind of turn into a bust. When you look at his skill set, he has a decent skill set. He can catch and shoot from that 3-point area, decent defender, decently athletic, can get to the basket, but it doesn't seem like he's gonna be a very good player in the league. And when you're drafting someone with a number 4 overall selection, that's exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for a really good player, hopefully at the very least an all-star type player, maybe even a superstar type player, but it seems like Patrick Williams is nowhere near that. And honestly, in my opinion, I know it's very early, but in my opinion, I think he's gonna end up turning into a bust. But it seems like things are finally starting to change in Chicago. When you look at the team that they currently have, they had a fantastic offseason this last year, bringing in Lonzo Ball, who I made a lot of videos about. I think he's a really good player in this league. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be a superstar in this league or even an all-star, but I think what he does, making his teammates better with his crazy playmaking and passing ability, just the ability to catch and shoot from that 3-point area, I think he's just a very effective player, as well as his fantastic defense he provides. I think Lonzo is definitely a winning player in this league and someone you want to have on your team rather than not. But also when you look at what they brought in DeMar DeRozan this previous offseason, I think that was a really good pickup for them as well. Just a fantastic scorer, great mid-range shooter, obviously struggles a little bit with that 3-point shot, but it is something he has been getting better with, specifically the catch and shoot 3-point shot. But obviously his mid-range is fantastic. Once he gets all the way to the basket, he's fantastic, super athletic, can easily dunk over whoever is guarding him in the paint, very crafty with both hands, either left or right. Overall, DeRozan is just a proven commodity, and he's just a fantastic scorer overall. But also when you look at Zach LaVine, who they brought in a few seasons back, he's turned into a fantastic player with the Bulls as well. Of course, we all know he's super athletic, can dunk over whoever's in the paint, can be very effective once getting all the way to the basket, but something that he kind of added within his game more recently was that 3-point shooting ability, and now he's actually a very good 3-point shooter. Certainly can catch and shoot from that 3-point area, can pull up, sidestep, step back, come off a screen and quickly shoot a 3-point shot. He has very deep range as well. LaVine has turned himself into a very legitimate all-star player, in my opinion, and maybe even a superstar player going forward. I think he's going to be a really good player for them. Also, adding Vucevic his previous season of course helps this Bulls team, and overall, after this Bulls team being one of the worst teams for a decent amount of time, this Bulls organization is finally starting to go in the right direction, bringing in the right players, and this team that they have currently is a very exciting team going forward. But now let's get into the question of the video, which is, can the Chicago Bulls roster win an NBA championship within the next 5 seasons? So as I mentioned before in the video, when you look at this roster, it's pretty clear that this is a very talented roster, and on the roster, most of the players are pretty young, and you would expect them to get better each and every season. So let's just say for the sake of the video that the Bulls do make the playoffs this season, which in my opinion I think they will, and let's say they're maybe like a 6th, maybe 7th seed, maybe 5th seed if they have a really good season. The season after that, at least on paper, you would expect them to be a little bit better, and then a little bit better from there, and just get better and better. So before I can answer the question if I personally think the Bulls can win a championship within the next 5 seasons, we have to look at the competition just in the Eastern Conference first before we even look at the Western Conference. So when you look in just the Eastern Conference, it's pretty clear that basically every team that was in contention last year has gotten a lot better. You talk about the New York Knicks, in my opinion, I'm a little biased, but I think they improved pretty significantly and are having a great early start to the year. You talk about the Miami Heat, who also improved pretty significantly as well. The Charlotte Hornets improved a lot. I don't think they're anywhere near to actually making it out of the East. They're not that level, but they definitely got a lot better than they were in the past. The Milwaukee Bucks just came off a championship win, of course. The Atlanta Hawks got a lot better. The Sixers are a pretty good team, although they have this whole thing with Ben Simmons. I still think they're a really good team. The Brooklyn Nets, obviously, they have the 3 stars. If they're healthy going into the playoffs and on the court, they're basically the most difficult team to beat, in my opinion. The Boston Celtics have gotten a little bit better as well. There's just so many different teams in the Eastern Conference that are so much better this year than they were last year. And going forward for the Bulls, not only for the Bulls, but any team in the Eastern Conference going forward, it's going to be a lot more difficult now or going forward than it was in the past to make it out of the Eastern Conference. So that would be the first step for the Bulls, and I think it's going to be a very difficult one. But now looking at the Western Conference, there's also a ton of teams there that are really good, obviously. You talk about the Los Angeles Lakers, they got so many players during the offseason and now have their own big 3. The Phoenix Suns just made it to the NBA Finals. Utah Jazz have always been good. Dallas Mavericks could be a really good team with Luka, and maybe if Porzingis figures it out. There's just so many good teams in general. Now I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Bulls are probably not going to make it out of the Eastern Conference within the next 2 or 3 seasons. Although anything can happen, obviously, I just think it's extremely unlikely that it would happen. But if they had any chance to do so, I would probably say it would be on that 4th or 5th season. Now, it might be crazy to say that, oh, the Bulls are going to get out of the Eastern Conference even 4 years or 5 years at this point, because the Bulls are just starting to become good now, and I think everyone agrees that they're going in the right direction, but at the same time, they're nowhere near making it out of the Eastern Conference or even competing to win an NBA championship. And even if they do somehow make it out of the Eastern Conference, it's going to be really difficult for them to actually win a championship playing whoever's the best coming out of the Western Conference. But if I had to guess, in the next 4 or 5 seasons, I would probably say the Bulls are not going to make it out of the Eastern Conference. And if I had to guess if the Bulls are going to win a championship within the next 5 seasons, I would probably have to say no. But at the same time, 4 or 5 years is a pretty long time, and anything can happen. Maybe some players that we don't expect just become so much better. Maybe the Bulls draft some star players going forward. You never know what can happen. But in my opinion, currently at this point, I would probably have to say I don't think the Bulls are going to win a championship within the next 5 seasons. But of course, anything could happen. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys think the Bulls can win an NBA championship within the next 5 seasons, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell. It really helps me out a lot. Until the next time, peace out, guys.
Dosage. Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetics. Hope you can't go where I'm